Hey there, welcome back to the channel where we dive into the wildest stories shaping our world. Today, we're talking about something massive happening under the waves of the Baltic Sea. Germany, along with Denmark, is digging up tons of sand from the ocean floor. And let me tell you, this isn't just a random construction project. This is a game changer that could reshape coastlines, economies, and even the environment in ways we're only starting to understand. Over the next 5 years, this operation is set to transform everything, and we're going to unpack why it's such a big deal. So, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's explore what's going on beneath the Baltic Sea. First off, why is Germany scooping up all this sand? The Baltic Sea seabed is loaded with high-quality sand, perfect for construction, infrastructure, and a lesser-known but critical use: beach nourishment. That's right, sand is being used to rebuild eroding coastlines and protect vulnerable shores from rising sea levels. Germany's coastline along the Baltic is a hotspot for tourism, with sandy beaches drawing millions every year. But those beaches are under threat from storms, waves, and climate change. By dredging sand from the sea, Germany is pumping it back onto its shores to keep them intact. This isn't just about saving pretty beaches, though. It's about protecting coastal communities, infrastructure, and even entire economies that rely on tourism and trade. In 2025 alone, projects like these are moving millions of cubic meters of sand, and the scale is only growing. Now, let's zoom in on the process. Dredging ships, equipped with massive suction pipes, vacuum up sand from the Baltic seabed at depths of 15 to 50 meters. We're talking about areas off the German and Danish coasts, like the Gulf of Gdansk or near Wüstrow, where roughly 320,000 cubic meters of sand were extracted in a single project back in 1997. Fast forward to today, and the numbers are even bigger. This sand is then transported to eroding beaches, or used in construction projects like roads, buildings, and even offshore wind farms. The operation is a logistical marvel. Think giant floating vacuums working around the clock, carefully mapping the seabed to avoid sensitive ecosystems. But here's the kicker. While this sounds like a win for infrastructure, it's stirring up a lot of questions about what it's doing to the environment. Let's talk about the environmental side, because this is where things get dicey. The Baltic Sea is already one of the most stressed marine ecosystems on the planet. It's a semi-enclosed sea, surrounded by 9 countries, with 85 million people living in its watershed. That means it's hit hard by pollution, overfishing, and now, sand extraction. Studies, like one from Science Direct, show that dredging changes the seabed structure, stirring up sediments and altering water flow. This can mess with marine life, especially benthic communities, those tiny critters living in the seabed that are crucial to the food chain. For example, sand extraction can reduce biodiversity by disrupting the migration of sandbanks and dunes, which affects everything from worms to fish. In one case study off Wüstrow, researchers found that dredging homogenized macrobenthic communities, meaning the diversity of species took a hit. That's a big deal when you consider how interconnected marine ecosystems are. But it's not just about the critters. Dredging can release clouds of sediment into the water, which can smother marine plants and block sunlight, disrupting photosynthesis. Plus, there's the risk of stirring up toxic chemicals. The Baltic Sea is a graveyard for World War II munitions, about 300,000 tons of unexploded ordnance to be exact. A 2025 study by Geomar found 3,000 kilograms of dissolved toxic chemicals from these relics in the southwestern Baltic, especially in places like the Bights of Kiel and Lübeck. Dredging could accidentally disturb these sites, releasing poisons like mustard gas or TNT into the water. While current levels are below health risk thresholds, scientists warn that as munitions corrode, contamination could spike over the next few decades. So, Germany's sand digging spree is walking a tightrope between economic gain and environmental risk. On the flip side, there's an argument that sand extraction is a necessary evil. Coastal erosion is accelerating due to climate change, with sea levels rising and storms getting fiercer. Without intervention, entire communities could lose their homes, and key infrastructure like ports could be underwater. Beach nourishment, like the projects in Palanga, Lithuania, where sand was dredged from depths over 50 meters, has proven effective at stabilizing coastlines. In Germany, places like Tiso are seeing similar efforts, where sand is used to reinforce beaches and dunes. This isn't just about aesthetics, it's about creating natural barriers against flooding. Offshore wind farms, a cornerstone of Germany's renewable energy push, also rely on sand for stable foundations. So, while the environmental concerns are real, the benefits of sand extraction are hard to ignore. Now let's talk about the bigger picture. Why does this matter for the next 5 years? Well, Germany and Denmark are scaling up these operations as part of a broader strategy to combat climate change and secure their coasts. By 2030, experts predict that sand extraction could reshape the Baltic's coastline dramatically, potentially saving billions in damages from flooding and erosion. But it's not just about defense. The sand is fueling massive infrastructure projects that could boost economies across the region. Think new ports, expanded renewable energy projects, and even artificial islands. Denmark's already experimenting with those. The Baltic Sea could become a hub for innovation, but at what cost? Scientists warn that without careful management, the ecological damage could outweigh the gains, especially if dredging disrupts critical habitats or releases more toxins. Another layer to this story is regulation. The Baltic Sea is governed by the Helsinki Commission, or HELCOM, which sets strict environmental standards. Germany's dredging operations have to comply with national and international laws, including the European Marine Strategy Framework Directive. This means detailed environmental impact assessments, monitoring, and data collection to minimize harm. For example, studies use tools like seismoacoustic profiling and side-scan sonar to map the seabed before and after dredging. But here's the catch. Enforcement varies across the 9 Baltic countries, and not everyone plays by the same rules. Russia, for instance, isn't part of the EU, which complicates unified action. Plus, local communities and environmental groups, like Greenpeace, are pushing back, arguing that the long-term risks aren't being taken seriously enough. Speaking of pushback, let's not forget the human angle. Fishermen, for example, are worried. The Baltic's fish stocks, like cod and herring, are already overexploited, and dredging could make things worse by disturbing spawning grounds. Coastal communities fear that changes to the seabed could affect currents and sediment flow, potentially clogging fishing routes or creating new shallows. Then there's tourism. Sandy beaches are a huge draw, but if dredging goes wrong, it could lead to murkier waters or damaged ecosystems, scaring off visitors. On the other hand, successful beach nourishment could make these areas more resilient, attracting even more tourists. It's a high-stakes balancing act, and everyone's got an opinion. So, what's the future hold? Over the next 5 years, Germany's sand extraction is expected to ramp up, driven by the urgent need to protect coasts and fuel growth. But scientists are calling for smarter approaches, like using nature-based solutions, such as restoring wetlands or seagrass beds, to complement dredging. Projects like the Interreg Baltic Sea regions, supported by nature, are setting up learning sites to test these ideas. There's also a push for better technology, like precision dredging, to reduce environmental impact. And let's not forget the global angle. The Baltic's challenges mirror those in other coastal regions, from the North Sea to the South China Sea. Germany's approach could set a precedent, showing the world how to balance development with conservation, or it could serve as a cautionary tale if things go south. All right, let's wrap this up. Germany's sand-digging adventure in the Baltic Sea is a bold move, one that could redefine the region's future. It's about saving beaches, building infrastructure, and fighting climate change. But it's also about navigating a minefield of environmental risks. The next 5 years will be critical. Will this be a story of innovation and resilience, or will the Baltic's delicate ecosystem pay the price? Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, this project is changing everything, one scoop of sand at a time. If you found this deep dive fascinating, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more stories like this. Drop a comment below. What do you think about Germany's sand extraction? Let's get the conversation going. And until next time, keep exploring the world with us.